Hey, book lovers. Welcome back to For Love of Memoir. Today's guest is Catherine Crosby, author of Voices from Inside, a memoir in verse. Catherine's story takes us inside the rarely understood world of dissociative identity disorder, a condition formerly known as multiple personality disorder. Through poetry and raw honesty, she gives voice to the many parts of herself that once had none, inviting readers to witness her journey from fragmentation to understanding and from silence to expression. In our conversation, Catherine and I talk about what it's like to live with more than one internal identity, how writing became a bridge between those voices, and what healing looks like when your mind has spent a lifetime protecting you. It's a powerful, eye opening discussion about trauma, survival, and the courage it takes to tell your story when every part of you has something to say. I can't wait for you to meet this remarkable woman, Catherine Crosby. For Love of Memoir is a place for people who have a passion for human stories. The ones we tell, the ones we carry, and the ones we're still trying to understand. Here, we talk with writers about their life-changing experiences and what it takes to bring those stories onto the page and into the world. Whether you simply love a good story or aspire to write your own, you're in the right place. Hi, Catherine.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me and welcome.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I was so moved by your memoir. I've never read anything like it. I can't wait to get into it.
Thank
Um,
you.
so maybe we'll just kick it off for people that aren't familiar. If you could just give us a little bit of a summary of what it's about. It is called, by the way, Voices from Inside, memoir in verse. So,
Yes, yes. So, my book tells about my life. My children have been asking me for years, please, Mom, will you write your story down? And I tried for a long time, but it was very overwhelming. Um, when I read Laurie Haltz Anderson's book, Shout, which is a memoir in verse, I thought I could do it that way because you can write a piece of it and then you can step away. And so that's not so overwhelming. Also, as you're reading, it's not so overwhelming. You're not like down in the dregs every single minute
yeah.
because there's, happy times and then there's sad times, but it doesn't, I feel like it doesn't overwhelm you as much. And in writing it, it didn't depress me as much as
Mm.
because I tried for years to write it in prose. But my story is that I was born to a woman who left the Kingston polygamous cult to marry my father. After they had been married about 5 years, he started on drugs and became a monster. So, this story tells about my experience with him, which caused me to have dissociative identity disorder. And when my mom left him, she went back to the Kingston polygamous cult. So it tells about my time spent in that organization, me leaving that organization and seeking healing.
Mm. I agree with you too. I think the written in verse was, yeah, it doesn't take you down into the deep nitty-gritty of it, but it still very much brought me into the moment because it was all first person based on the altar at the time
Mm-hmm.
and in present tense. So it
Yeah,
really kind of like really brings you into the moment.
yes.
What what made you decide you wanted to share your story and what made you decide on memoir?
Originally, I was just going to record it for my children, and I had people tell me your book could help others.
Mm.
I started a blog when I was first diagnosed with DID just as a way to help me process. And I had a lot of people reach out to me and realize that my story could help others. It was a scary thing because dissociative identity disorder is very stigmatized. And
Absolutely.
I'm a school teacher, and I worried that I would lose my job or people would, believe the Hollywood stereotypes and think that I was not a safe person. So it was scary, very scary. And
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of bravery to be that
yeah.
kind of vulnerable because it is really sensationalized in Hollywood.
Hmm.
And I think people
Oh,
fear it.
well, and they have to sensationalize it because the reality is pretty boring.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the system's whole purpose is to stay hidden and
Sure.
to keep you safe. So you can't be outrageous. You can't be doing things that are going to make people suspect of you.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. But
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's so true. I had never really thought of it through that lens, but sure, it's all a protective mechanism, right?
it is. And when I started watching the United States of Terror years ago,
Mm.
and what she was showing on the outside was a lot of what a person with DID sees on the inside once they're aware that they have it. Because, like, I didn't even know that I had it until I was diagnosed in 2010.
Wow, you were
So
well into adulthood by the
I
time you
was,
learned.
yeah,
So
well into
what
good.
what were some of those early signs that kind of tipped you off or that made you realize that?
Well, I had symptoms even when I was a little girl, but of course I was a little girl. The main symptom was losing time, where you are aware that time has passed, but you have no recollection of anything that occurred
Mm.
in that time. Um, and I remember the first time just thinking, what happened? Why can I remember all of these things from my life, but I can't remember the last 30 minutes? And just knowing that you've lost time. And that happened throughout my life. When I finally went into counseling, that was blamed on at the time they just called it PTSD, which now they
Mhm.
call it complex PTSD. And it was blamed on that.
Yeah.
And so, but I wondered, I wondered,
So you kind of had a hunch that this might be what you were dealing with.
yeah, I did.
Wow.
Because, I remember one time going to the store and running into the vice principal at the school where I was student teaching at the time and had no idea who he was. Like, no idea. And he's saying hi
Wow.
to me, and I'm mentally trying to calculate where do I know him from? How do
Sure.
I know him? And he says, I'm the vice principal at your school. And I'm like, oh, you look so different in a suit without your suit on. I'm like, you always have a suit on. You look so different without your suit.
Wow, way to play it off. How about
And,
other people around you? Did they notice?
um, when years before I was diagnosed, one of my daughters, when she was a teenager, would leave me notes on the table because she would ask if she could go somewhere after school and I would give her permission. And then I would have no memory of that. And then she'd come home and I'd be upset. Where have you been? Why didn't you let me know? This was before cell phones. And so she would just leave me notes. Remember, you told me that I could.
Just to remind you.
Yeah. And, had a teacher call me at home to substitute her class. And then when I ran into her at the school before that date, she says, I'm so glad you're taking my class. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, let me just verify that it's in my planner, because I had no idea, because the person that wrote it down wasn't the person who was at the school.
That's wild. So how many alters are you diagnosed with?
I have 13 alters.
13. Okay. And how often do they change on
They
average, or does it
just
depend on your levels of stress or
they change as needed. I think they used to change a lot more.
mm,
After 15 years of actively working with the system, I am mostly co-conscious.
okay.
which means that when an altar is out, there is usually another altar out with them that kind of keeps track of everything.
With more memory, I would
Yeah,
presume, because there's another altar out with it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Which is helpful. So my altar that is the teacher is the one that is probably most separate. And
Mm.
I wrote about that in my book, how
Hmm.
the day that I was shopping as teacher and I heard these women's voices and I'm like, oh, they sound familiar. And they come around the corner and, oh, hi, how are you? And they throw their arms around me. And I'm like, who are these people? And it was my mom and my sister. But the teacher didn't know them.
Wow. And I can't remember at the time, did you already have your diagnosis or was that before?
I had my diagnosis at this point.
So they knew at that point as well?
They did not know. I hadn't talked with them yet.
Okay.
So I was very cautious at first with my diagnosis. It
Sure.
was very scary and just
Sure.
not knowing who I felt like I could trust. And they wanted to go to lunch. And I'm like, oh, I have so much to do. I need to go home and get stuff done. And I just needed to go process what happened and
Yeah.
be like, you cannot be out. You cannot be out without somebody with you.
So is that part of therapy then? Do you learn through therapy how to basically tag team when
Hmm.
another alter comes through?
You do.
Okay.
And one of the first things that I was taught was to get to know each altar
Hmm.
and to just let them be who they were, but to also create safe places for altars to go.
Okay.
Because many of my altars are children who
Right.
shouldn't be out during adult situations. And so they all have their safe space.
And that's common for dissociative identity disorder, right? Usually there are a lot of children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you develop this disorder when you are a child.
Hmm.
So usually it is brought on by severe trauma before the age of 7.
Yeah.
So
I imagine it was probably a relief and also terrifying to finally have a diagnosis of what you'd been dealing with all that time, though, huh?
that is exactly how I felt.
Mm.
I was so scared and, just it was so overwhelming and just, wondering, would I be able to keep my job? Would my kids want me to be around my grandkids? Would they buy into the Hollywood stereotype or would they
Sure.
realize that I'm just me and I'm an
Nothing has
okay
changed.
person?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just have a diagnosis now to
Mm.
kind of help me get things together. And then, you know, because when you're still learning about it, I wondered too, am I a safe person?
Yeah.
Are any of these stereotypes real? Um, and my
Especially,
children,
I'm
oh, go
sorry.
ahead.
I was going to say, especially having missed time, I'm sure that you had a lot of questions about those missed gaps of time, not knowing what happened.
Yeah. And that's a scary thing.
Mm.
Um, but my children have really helped me. And I remember one day I went for a walk and I was so stressed over this about what my alters do and what kind of people are they, because I didn't really know them very well at this point.
Yeah.
At this point, I probably had, and I didn't know I had 13 alters at this point. At this point, I maybe had met 4 or 5 of them. Um, and I just remember thinking about my own children and what good people they are and how I had a part in creating these absolutely amazing human beings. And I thought, why would my mind have created anybody bad? That
Oh,
isn't who I am.
what a
And,
powerful way to focus.
and I thought every part that my brain created was created to keep me safe and to keep me
Mm.
whole. And I need to have a little bit more faith in them. just like I do in my 3D children who represent me in the world very well.
Wow, what a brilliant way to look at it. Were you lucky enough to find a psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist, um, a good one early on that you were able to really work with, or did you kind of have to dig for that?
I went to one who didn't feel qualified
Mm,
to help me and recommended me to someone else who was very helpful. I'm not currently in counseling.
mm.
I kind of go in and out depending
Yeah.
on what my needs are. I haven't been in counseling for several years, so since probably the second year of the pandemic.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow. I would love to hear you read a piece from your book. Did you pick
Okay,
one to read?
I did. Let me share one of my altars with you.
Great.
So this is the altar, and I don't know if this is the altar or just me, the administrator, but this is called Glitter. It's on page 15. She sits in the ruins of her dreams, hopelessly trying to fit fragments together, but the pieces don't match, so she stuffs them into her pockets and her heart. Continuing forward and forgetting until the pieces bleed to be known. Fearful, she struggles to cast them away. In anguish, the cast clings to her, owning her as she owns them. She once thought she was one, but in reality, she is one of many. Not what she was or what she might have been, but what she is. And the pieces glitter where there is no light.
Mm, thank you for that.
Are welcome. And
So
then
how, sorry, go.
I I have one other piece I'd
Yeah.
like to read about
Yes,
my
please.
little altar, Annie. Hopefully, I won't cry.
It's
So,
okay if you do.
Annie is my most damaged altar.
Okay.
So, this is
How old
called
is Annie?
Space. Annie is about 3.
Okay.
Space between. In the void, like white, between words, Annie hides. Without words of her own, her presence, like paper, allows the ink of others to appear. Is there a way to heal our little wounded one? To bring her ink into the light and out of the white? Annie, without words, remains forever the scream trapped next to heart and lungs in the space between.
Mm. Oh my goodness. My heart aches. It's so often misunderstood and like we talked about, sensationalized. What do you wish people knew about dissociative identity disorder?
I wish that people knew that we're just regular people.
Mhm.
We we have a condition that was created. Um, the majority of people who have dissociative identity disorder, again, through no fault of their own, were severely traumatized, usually by the age of 7. And they are almost always creatives. They're very creative individuals. Um, they are people whose brains thought a way out of the abuse to help them survive and
Mm.
to help the abuse not completely destroy them. So,
Compartmentalizing. Yeah,
mm,
it's an amazing thing that the brain does. I would imagine leaving from your mom's husband back to the polygamous cult probably felt like a bit of a respite at the time. Did you notice any difference in how often, well, I guess you weren't noticing it at the time, period.
right.
But do you know, can you remember like a marked difference between living with your mom's husband and then back at the polygamy cult?
We, all of my sisters, she had 5 little girls,
Mm,
and we all felt safe. we were so glad to be away from him and
I
his
imagine.
horrible friends. And we felt like nobody would hurt us where we were.
Yeah.
And so I loved the order as a little girl. I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely loved it because, they said, out in the world, things are really dangerous. Well, they were right. Things were really
Mm-hmm.
dangerous. Um, and it took a lot of things happening in the cult for me to realize that things were really dangerous there too. But at
Right.
the time, as a child, I felt safe, other than the fact that we had to lie about everything
Sure.
in the order. And that was very hard. And that was very, very stressful and caused, I feel like, a lot of my childhood depression um, that I was trying to work through with no counseling. Um,
Yeah, I can imagine you were probably kind of grappling with yourself at that point.
mhm, I really
How old were you
was.
when you left the order?
I was 15.
Okay. So you knew pretty young there's something not right here.
Yeah. I knew by the time I was 13, I knew
Mm-hmm.
that I would find a way out. And,
Mm-hmm.
part of that is I have two altars that are protectors, and they don't put up with any garbage. And they
Bless
knew.
them, right?
Yeah. And I didn't realize that was, it's because when I think about myself as a child, I was painfully shy,
Mm.
painfully. But if one of these altars was out, I was so sassy and so not shy. And I just remember thinking, why am I so brave sometimes? You know,
So there were some times when your altars were out that you could remember. It
I
wasn't
can
always blank
remember.
spaces.
Yes, so I was still, I mean, I was co-conscious,
Mm-hmm.
and um, sometimes when I would be too sassy, I would think, what is wrong with you? Why are you acting this way? This isn't like you. Um,
Because it felt completely out of character.
yeah.
So, out of curiosity, what's the difference? Because I really just am curious. What's the difference between dissociative identity disorder and having an alter come through and just someone who has, let's say, a rare but sassy side to their personality? Like, how do you differentiate? How would a psychiatrist differentiate between the
And I
two?
think the first thing they would want to know is there a history of trauma?
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's not a history of trauma, it's just somebody that's sometimes they're outspoken and sassy and sometimes they're quiet.
Yeah, because that's the only thing that creates it, right?
It's
Is
the only
severe
thing,
trauma.
severe trauma. So that's how you get it.
Wow. So how is your understanding of identity and what it means to be, I mean, I guess whole is the only word I can come up with, changed like throughout your healing journey?
That's been that's been a hard thing
Mm,
because sometimes I feel like, am I even a person? Or am I just
mm,
parts? Am I just parts of people? Am I just, you know, what is the real me? And when right before I was diagnosed, I even wondered if I was possessed. I'm like, am I possessed? Do I have like, and then I wondered if a person could have more than one soul. Cause I'm like, I feel like I have more than one soul. Like I have like I feel like it's not just me in here. I feel like there's more.
wow.
And so, the finding of identity is that's a hard thing for somebody with DID. It's like, who are you? Who even are you? I don't even know sometimes. Sometimes I don't even know who's out.
Wow. That's not something I never thought of either. I think for people to understand who they are is a challenge when they're not struggling with dissociative identity disorder, but with that many fractals of a personality, I can
Mhm.
see how you never feel like you can quite land on one, I'm sure.
And sometimes I'm very sure who's out.
Right.
But other times I'm like, I don't even know. until I try to do something. I have some alters that can't cook. And so, if I'm cooking something that I've always been able to make and my husband's like, this tastes off. And I'm like, yeah, I know it
Somebody
does.
else cooked dinner tonight.
I have an alter who paints, and if she's not out, I can't paint. My alter, Laura, is the writer. If I don't have access to her, I can't write.
Wow, that's incredible. What was it like to write from a mind that holds so many perspectives and memories?
It was very healing to write it down, very healing, and um, to just put it on the page.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, there were some times where, I mean, it took longer to write than probably for most people because sometimes Laura wasn't out, so we couldn't
Sure,
write. She was
sure.
the scribe for everybody's story, and it's just what it is. So,
Wow. Have your children read it?
yes, my children have read it,
And what
and
was their feedback? I bet it gave them a whole new perspective.
I think so. And some of my grandchildren have read it. My granddaughter, who I have a poem in here about her, and I asked her permission to include that poem about her.
Mm,
Um, she's read it several times, but I think it helps them understand that I'm okay and that
mm,
I've been through hard things, but I'm okay. My husband didn't read it until after it had been published. He was worried it would make him sad,
sure.
and he read it, and it did. He cried, and but he said it helped him understand me better
Well, and
as.
again, in the verse too, what a beautiful way to be able to convey your feelings and your history and a little bit of what happened to you without giving your family all the nitty-gritty details. I mean,
Mhm,
there are some things that happen in our lives that, especially
mhm,
if the younger people in our lives knew about it, would probably change the way they look at us, whether we want it to or not, right?
mhm.
And so I think that probably was just an absolutely brilliant way to pull it together to kind of give your family a broader picture of exactly
Yes,
what's going on and where it came from.
and I think without completely sinking anyone,
Yeah.
because a
Yeah.
lot of times when I've read memoirs, especially memoirs that contain trauma,
Hmm.
I can't deal with hearing the whole thing because when you've been through it, you know what comes next.
Yep.
And so you can make you can infer to it, make an
Right.
inference, and people can still get the meaning
It's true.
without coming in. You don't have to hit anybody over the head,
Yep.
especially people who have been traumatized. They know.
It's true.
Hmm.
Plus, I also think that's kind of a sign of having written your memoir from a healed place, which I say
Yes.
all the time. I think the best memoirs are written from a healed place, not a place of healing. Although it does that too, because healing is a
Mhm.
journey, right?
It is.
Integrating everything that goes on in our lives really is just a
Mhm.
ongoing, lifelong journey. But I think it really speaks to the fact that it was written from a healed place that you were able to do it in verse in the little vignettes
Mhm.
of memory.
Yes.
Beautifully done.
Thank you.
How'd you decide whose voices were going to appear in the book and which ones to leave out? I mean, I know we had to have Laura, right?
And yet Laura doesn't share much about herself
Mm-hmm.
because she doesn't speak.
Mm-hmm.
So she just writes,
She only writes.
only writes.
Fascinating.
But so she writes everybody's story. She's very compassionate and very she's a good egg.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted things told. My alter, who is teacher, does not share her name to the public,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just wants to be called teacher in everything. She does have a name, um, and they were just able to share the things that they wanted to share. So whoever was out got to share what they wanted to share, and then of course there was a lot of editing and going back over things and.
So you kind of let the authors take the lead on who wanted to be heard.
Mhm. when it was funny because when I was in college getting my teaching degree, and I do all my homework, and I would get to school the next day and people would say, "Oh, what did you do your lesson plan on?" And I would have no idea. I'm just like, "Oh, let me show it to you. I'll show you." I'm like, I don't have, because I wasn't going to say, I don't know. I have no idea
Right.
what I wrote.
It makes you a master at kind of like diverting and redirecting, redirecting to be able to answer a question, I'm sure.
Oh, totally. And I mean, I've done that so much in my life. I've
Yeah.
done it. So,
So was naming all of your altars part of your therapy? Did that come with time? Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
they share what their names are.
Okay.
So as they come forward, they share.
Mm,
Sometimes it takes them a little bit to decide what they want to be called.
okay.
Um, Cat has just always been Cat.
Mm,
And, I remember years ago, I had a friend at work who would call me that, and it was jarring to me. But I didn't know why, because I didn't know that Cat existed.
so did the
And
coworker know that Cat existed? Had introduced herself
no,
as
they
Cat?
had
No?
no idea. But my name is Catherine. So they
Oh,
just
yeah.
shortened it to
Duh.
Cat.
Yeah.
And it was like upsetting to me. Like, why are they calling me that? And I mean,
Yeah.
I totally did not like it. Um, and then she was the first altar to come forward, and she kind of terrified me at first. So,
Why is that? Is she one of the stronger personalities?
she's a child. She's about 8 years old, so she's a child, but she's a mischievous little kid. Um, and I think I used to dream about her, and she'd come visit me in my dreams. And I was just like, who are you? Who are you? And I don't know. I just almost felt like if I let her through, that it would ruin me somehow.
Mm,
I don't even know. But she was the first altar to
interesting. Do you
introduce her.
dream about all of or have you dreamt about more of your altars?
Just her.
Just
I've dreamt
her.
about I've dreamt about Laura too. I've
Okay.
dreamt about Kat and about Laura. I haven't dreamt about the others.
Wow. Do you
And
remember
so,
what she looked like and stuff in your dream?
oh yeah, yeah. And I know what they all look like. I mean, they just
Sure.
appear. Yeah, you know what they look like. But I dreamt about Kat and Laura before I'd been diagnosed.
Okay.
Um, but Laura, when I dreamt about her, I actually dreamt that Dot brought her to me and said, "It's safe for her to be with you now. I've been taking care of her for you."
Wow. That's absolutely incredible. And then
Yeah.
you said you know what they all look like. So in your mind's eye,
Mhm.
you immediately know what each one of them
Yeah.
look like.
I'm hoping that one of my grandkids will become a good enough artist and can draw them for me at some point. I would love that.
That would be incredible. That'd be an amazing addition to your book,
Wouldn't
too.
that be
Be
cool?
able to put those in there, huh?
Hmm.
Yeah. Can we
Yeah.
talk about publishing?
Sure.
What did you decide on for publishing? How'd that go?
So originally, I really wanted to be traditionally published,
Mm-hmm.
and worked hard toward that end.
Mm-hmm.
And the feedback I received was positive, but I didn't have the social media
Okay.
numbers to be a no one publishing a memoir to go
Okay.
traditional publishing. So they just said, maybe in a few years, if you've got more numbers, then, and I just thought, I want to put it out there.
Yep.
It's time.
Yep.
So I decided to go the self publishing route, and I learned a lot of stuff along the
Do
way.
share. Do
I
share. Give us
learned,
when you say self-publishing, you mean like Did you open up a publishing company? Did you do Amazon
I did
KDP?
I did Amazon. I went the
Okay.
Amazon route. But I learned how to format and how to what I wanted it to look like. And
Mhm.
I am an avid reader. I read about 200 books a year
Ooh,
because
that is,
I'm a school teacher and I'm always looking for books for my students.
yeah.
So I knew what I wanted it to look like, and I had an idea for the cover. Um, and my sweet daughter in law, who's a photographer, I shared with her my idea, and I'd been collecting masks for a long time because I knew
Mm,
once I started writing the book, I knew I wanted masks on the front.
yeah.
And so she did the photography for the image, and she and my son, Brandon, helped um, do all the formatting for the cover. And they helped me with that. I have a good friend who's a tech writer, and she did line edits for me.
Very nice.
Had
A good friend
several
to have.
Yes, had several friends who also were beta readers and went through
Mhm.
it for me and got a lot of feedback, a lot of good feedback
Good.
from
Yeah,
them.
the beta team it's critical. I feel like a lot
Mhm.
gets fleshed out in that phase.
It is. And then I had about a 12-hour period on Amazon where it was number one in women's mental disorders.
Really?
Yeah, and it was so excited. I like took a screenshot of it, because it
That's
said
so
number one.
exciting. Yeah, congratulations.
And I'm just like, and it was just, it's totally not a bestseller or anything, but for 12 hours, it was number one, you
Hey,
know.
that means people are reading it, and your original goal was to help people with it, right? So,
Yes. Yes.
what kind of feedback have you received?
Within 24 hours, it was about 12 hours after it went live. Um, I was contacted by someone from the FLDS cult in Southern Utah. That's the Warren Jeffs group,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
wanting resources. So I actually went back in and edited it and added a resource page
Okay.
for people wanting help and added like suicide support and help for getting out of polygamy. And then just this last week, oh my goodness, I'll share this with you. I was contacted by someone who had gone through some very traumatic things with their own father. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I put it in our notes. Let's see. Let's see. She said, "It's been hard for me to find my voice and finally start opening up about my abuse. But one thing that has really helped me is your memoir. Thank you for your courage and vulnerability because I needed to hear it. I needed your example, and you have played a critical role in my healing." And I have received many private messages along those lines saying
That's
that
what it's all about.
it gave them the courage to face what had happened to them or to speak out or to go to counseling. And, I told myself, if it helps one person, it's worth it.
Absolutely. Mission accomplished.
Yes.
And it
And
sounds like you've had several.
yes. And the week before it went live, I panicked and I thought, what am I doing? I am just like exposing myself to the world. This is so incredibly scary.
Mm.
I talked to my mom, and at the time, my mom had dementia. And I said, I'm just really nervous about it. And like, what are people going to think? And she says, well, if people say anything about it, if they give you a hard time, just say, oh, I made it all up. I'm like, Mom, it's a memoir. That's not how memoir works, you know? And so,
Sage advice, though. Pressure lifted. I just made it up. The whole thing.
but she was so proud of my book and
Oh.
um, so glad that I was able to put it out there because she left the cult in the last couple of years of her life.
Mm.
And she she just wanted to tell everybody all the dirt.
Sure.
And she wanted all the abuses to stop.
Yeah.
And so she was proud of me for being brave
Yeah.
enough to come forward.
Takes a lot of strength. I'm sure
Yeah.
she was proud. I'm sure she
Yeah.
was proud. If you were speaking to somebody right now who was recently diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, what
Hmm.
would you want to tell them to give them hope or comfort?
This makes me a little emotional. It is terrifying. When you are first diagnosed with this, it is so scary.
Mm,
Um, a lot of people say, oh, it's good to have a name for what you're dealing with. But it's terrifying because you're at the
mhm,
beginning and you don't even know. You don't know your alters. You don't know how many alters you have. You don't know what their purpose was. Um, but the advice I would give them is to let them speak and tell you
mm,
what they were created for. Help them create a safe place for them to be when they're not fronting. Um, let them know that you appreciate what they did to help you survive, and be gentle with yourself. And I had, when Glory came forward, it was terrifying because she was not in a good headspace
mm,
and she wanted to die. And, um, she just had to do some healing and be able to share the things that had happened to her so that she could move forward and that she could heal. And it was hard. It was hard when she would come out because a lot of the alters didn't really like her.
mm.
And in fact, my youngest son would say, "Oh shit, Glory's out." You know,
Really?
he had such a hard time with her because he was at the time, he was maybe, 13 or 14, so just a little younger than she is. And I think she kind of scared him. And so he always liked Cat. He would do things to bring Cat out
Mm,
so that she would play with him and do all the fun things. But then my daughter, just older than him, Glory has always been her favorite altar. She loves when
really?
Glory's out. Yeah.
Why is that?
Because my youngest daughter is pretty sassy too, and Glory's very sassy.
So she can identify. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Where can people, so I assume Amazon. Do you have a
Mm.
website?
I do not
Through
have a
Amazon.
website.
Okay.
I'm on Instagram, as my Instagram is Building Lifelong Readers.
Okay.
And I do a lot of book reviews there
Okay.
because I love books. I've always joked that I like books more than people. So,
They don't disappoint usually. They don't usually.
usually, and I only review books I love. So
Okay,
I
great. I'll
I
drop that
just
in the show notes as well.
I feel like if people do everything they do to get a book published, then I just want to shine the light on the ones I love.
That is why I do this podcast. That's why, because I feel like if you're willing, especially with memoir, if you're willing to make yourself vulnerable enough to put your story out there, it's
Mhm.
gonna find someone. It's going to.
Yeah.
Just because it's going to. Like this storytelling is something that humans I think humans are natural storytellers. And I think that more
Mhm.
often than not, if we're willing to just put ourselves out there, somebody is going to identify with your story. Somebody is going to see themselves in your story. In fact, in every single one I read, I can identify with
Mhm.
something in every single memoir I read. So I'm with
Yes.
you, man. If you're willing to do what it takes and you have the perseverance and the fortitude to write an entire book and then publish it and market it, I'm
Mhm.
going to do everything I can to lift up those
Yeah.
voices. That's my goal with
Well,
this
and
show.
I appreciate that because marketing is hard.
It is. It is very hard. Hang on. Just one second. I have dogs. Hey, hey. My husband just left, and now my dogs are
What kind do you have?
what? I have two Shepherd Lab mixes,
Oh, nice.
but we have a grand pup who is a pit bull, and he's got the loudest bark of all of them. Can you hear them?
I can't.
Okay, usually my microphone doesn't pick it up, so that's good.
Yeah. I have
Um,
two miniature schnauzers.
do you? I
I
love
do.
my dogs. Dogs and books, that's all I need.
Yeah, there you go. Yes,
Would
that's what
never
you.
leave the house if I didn't have to.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what's next for you?
I am. I'm teaching, of course,
Mhm.
and working on a lot of things with family health issues. But I am writing. I'm writing some poetry about the journey that my husband's on right now with battling cancer.
Oh.
And I am writing some poetry about the loss of my mother. I
Hmm.
would like to do a biography for her because her life was fascinating.
Yes, I think that would be an incredible story to
Mhm.
tell. And what a way to live
Mhm.
out her legacy because it's something that she wanted to do anyway.
It is. I am also working on a young adult mystery, and I'm working on a young adult fantasy, more of like a fairy tale, not like a whole fantasy, but more like
Yeah.
fairy tale elements. And then I'm working on a chapter book, so a early elementary
You have
fantasy.
lots in the works, kind of all over the board. I can't wait to
All over
see.
the
I
place.
can't wait to see what you bring out in the future. Do you write them all at the same time and just kind of bounce around whenever you get bored, or do you tend to
I
stick with
do.
one until you,
No, I bounce.
yeah, I have to
It de-
bounce.
and it depends on who's out, you know. It's
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah, I suppose.
I
Suppose it
have
does.
this brain that has like so much, there's so much going on inside my brain all the time.
But how much creativity too. Like there
Hmm.
are some, I venture to guess that there are some benefits once you kind of harness it all and are able to figure it out. I imagine there are probably some benefits to having those definitively different personalities.
I have often felt like, I mean, once I got over the initial horror of being diagnosed with
Mm,
this, I feel like it's a superpower
yeah.
because a lot of times I'll be in a situation and I have another alter feeding me information that they're seeing. And I'll know stuff I have no way of knowing. And people will
Wow.
say, how did you know that? And I just always say, because not everybody knows about my diagnosis, I just always say, I don't know, I just had a feeling,
I just had a hunch.
when someone's feeding me information. And I
I
can hear
love that
them,
you look at
I
it
can
that
hear
way.
them
Yeah.
in my brain. Like I know sometimes my daughters will call with exciting news to give me, and they won't tell me because they know that right alter isn't out that will give them the response that they want.
I think your whole family's in on it. They just capitalize on the altars.
Yeah. And so they'll talk to me about something else and they call me later and in hoping that the right alter will be out that will give them the response that they're looking for.
Oh my goodness. You
You
have them
know?
all trained. All trained very well.
Well, and they kind of train themselves, I think, out of,
Yep.
just dealing with this mom of
Sure.
theirs that's not the same as other moms. But
Right. So how
it's
old are your kids?
so I have my youngest is he'll be 23
Okay.
next month. Is he really going to be that old? Yeah, he'll be 23. And then my oldest, because I had my oldest child when I was 16 years old,
Mhm.
he is 45.
Okay.
Yeah.
So most of your youngest life, he remembers these, but not your oldest one. This was probably news
Hmm.
to him on into his adulthood, right?
Yeah.
And then you have a daughter in there. Where's she at?
Well, I have four children. I
Oh,
have
four. Okay.
three boys and two daughters, and then I have two stepchildren also.
Okay.
Um, but I had four children in my first marriage.
Okay.
And then when I left him and 5 years later met my husband that I've been married to for 25 years,
Hmm.
and we had our son. So
Okay.
there's 13 years between Matt and the next sibling older than him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had boy, girl, boy, girl, boy.
Boy, girl, boy, girl, boy.
Mhm.
13 years. That's brave. That's starting all over again.
It was. It was. He sure has brought a lot of joy to our lives,
Of
though.
course. I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah. He kind of is the kid that belongs to everybody.
Yep, they're here for a reason. They come for a reason.
They do.
I'm a firm believer in it.
Mhm.
Well, I am definitely looking forward to seeing some of your future work come out. It sounds like you've got a little bit of fiction and potentially some nonfiction regarding the polygamous cult that your mom came from. And
Yeah.
man, you've got some stories to tell. You have got some stories to tell. This
Mhm.
one, though, I have to say, for being such a gut-wrenching read, it was beautiful. It was so beautifully done. I think enjoyed is probably the wrong word, but it's the only one that I can put on it at the moment. It was just definitely a true work of art. So bravo to
Thank
you for
you.
that.
That means so
Thank you.
much to me. And I hope that even though it covers very hard topics, that it helps people see
Mhm.
that even if you have really hard things in your life, you can have a
Mm.
really good life anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I have a really good life.
Yeah. I think you accomplished your goal. Mission
Thank
accomplished there.
you.
It was beautiful.
Appreciate you.
Thanks again for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
Catherine. That's it for today's episode of For Love of Memoir. Thanks for listening. If something in this conversation moved you, I'd be so grateful if you'd follow the show, leave a comment, or share it with someone you care about. Those small actions tell the algorithm that our content matters so we can reach more memoir lovers like you.